Welcome back to Technical Knockout, the MMA podcast. I'm your host, as always, Hussein, and welcome back, y'all. Welcome to 2025, UFC calendar 2025. We are starting it off none other than at the Apex, of course, baby. Why wouldn't we? And we have a Strawweight main event between Mackenzie Dern and Amanda Ribas. So Amanda Ribas is going back down to Strawweight. She didn't find much success at flyweight, fighting the likes of Rose Namajunas, fighting the likes of who was it in the last one? Macy Barber, I believe she fought there too. It's been a rough little stretch for her there at flyweight. So she's coming back down to Strawweight. I'm not sure if this is a great move for her career-wise. It seemed like she was a little bit knackered at Strawweight last few times out there. Had a bit of trouble on the scale. She did get that finish over Luana Pinheiro at Strawweight and got a Performance of the Night bonus for that. But Luana Pinheiro is really just not the level of competition that, Ribas is used to. So, I wasn't surprised to see her get that victory. But she draws Mackenzie Dern here at Strawweight, and Mackenzie Dern, for those of you who don't know, this is a rematch. These women have fought years ago. I remember watching their fight initially when it happened, I should say, their first fight, and being like, "Yo, this is a great matchup between two very well-rounded, or at least very great grapplers who their striking is developing." And at that point, it felt like Mackenzie Dern's grappling would be unstoppable in the UFC. This was only like her third or fourth fight, I believe. Her biggest step up in competition at that time for sure. It felt like we weren't sure if Dern's grappling was going to be ever checked. You know what I mean? It felt like she was going to be able to just run through everybody with it. Until she ran into Amanda Ribas, who is also a very accomplished grappler in her own right. Obviously not to the level of Mackenzie Dern, because only so few people in the world are. Mackenzie Dern has some of the highest credentials of jiu-jitsu you can get. Also, shouts out to this AI painting that my coworker got me for Secret Santa. It's an AI painting of me fighting Jake Paul. I think it's fucking hilarious. So I had to put it up for the pod. Thank you very much, Carolina. I appreciate it. Dern's grappling kind of got. We saw the ceiling when she fought Amanda Ribas in the first fight. Ribas was able to stop the honestly dog shit takedown attempts that Dern was throwing at her. She was able to beat her up on the feet, because Dern's striking has really never been more than a wild overhand, especially at that point. And she kind of just beat her up for 3 rounds. In this rematch, we've kind of seen them go separate ways since that first fight. Neither of them have gotten to a title shot or anywhere near it, really. Both of them have, had ups, had downs, shown some new wrinkles to their game, lost some progress too, at least in the case of Ribas. I feel like she's hit a bit of a plateau. Dern, her striking looked good for a little bit there, and then it was right back to dog shit. She was getting beat the fuck up by Amanda Lemos in their fight. So it's honestly an interesting matchup. And I know it's not like some, divisionally relevant fight or, like a rematch that people have been clamoring for. It's certainly not of that category, but I still feel like it's a very interesting matchup, and I think it's a good way to start the year. So let's get down to what we think is going to happen. So, in the first fight, we saw Dern come up short in the takedown attempts, was not able to get the fight to the ground, was forced to strike with Ribas, and Ribas is just better on the feet. She's just better. She can throw kicks. She can throw a jab. She has better movement. She might not be as powerful as Dern, and she certainly can't take as good a shot as Dern. Dern has a massive iron chin, and she puts herself in position to get hit a lot, Dern, because her striking's not great, her defense is not great. Now, Ribas, on the other hand, she does have better striking defense. Like, she is better, she's a bit more evasive, she's a bit more fluid with her movement than Dern is. Not to say that she's some fucking, kickboxer extraordinaire. It's not like she's amazing on the feet, but I think her striking arsenal is deeper than Mackenzie Dern's has ever been. And that being said, it does feel like, even though Ribas has better striking defense and can get out of the way of the shots more, she if she does get hit, she can get rattled. And Dern can rattle people. We've seen her hit really hard and, maybe not stop many girls with strikes, but definitely make them think twice about engaging again. She's coming off a victory over Lupe Godinez, which was probably one of her best performances in a fight where she was able to, have some success on the ground, but have more success on the feet than we've seen in a while. Before that, getting trounced by Amanda Lemos and honestly beat to shit by Jessica Andrade. And then the fight before that, she had definitely her career best performance against Angela Hill. So Dern has been ups and downs. Ribas has been ups and downs. We really don't know who to expect on fight night out of either of these lasses, but in my opinion, I think Ribas just has a bit more to her game. I think that even though Dern has improved more since they first fought, I still feel like the level that Ribas is on is higher than where Dern can get to. So I'm going to go with Ribas here. She is a minus 200 favorite, which I feel like is, I think that's fair, considering how the first fight went and considering, where they've been since that. I do feel like Ribas should be a favorite here. I would probably take her over 1.5, maybe over 2.5. Dern is very tough to finish. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Ribas decision here. Yeah. So give me Amanda Ribas. Give her Amanda Ribas over 2.5, and I think she gets it done this weekend. Going down the card, you have Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Carlston Harris. Carlston Harris, a great grappler. Not much else to him. A lot of submissions on his record. If I'm thinking of the right guy, yeah, he has a good amount of submissions on his record. Mostly wins by decision as well. Got that sub over Jeremiah Wells, which was pretty slick, but after that got knocked out by Chaos Williams. Famously got knocked out by Shavkat Rakhmonov. Really no shame in losing to Williams or Rakhmonov, honestly, but Ponzinibbio has seemed to kind of turn a corner lately. I think both these guys are never going to be top 10. They're never going to be ranked like that, at least not anymore. Ponzi was at one point. But, I think Ponzinibbio might still have enough gas in the tank to be able to jab and circle and just, outstrike Carlston Harris. If Carlston Harris can get to some grappling positions, he might be able to make Ponzi pay, but Ponzi's never been one who can really fall susceptible to grappling like that. We've seen him get out grappled by Gunnar Nelson, but that was after those horrendous eye pokes, and even still he had some trouble there. I think if anything, it's really the strikers that you have to worry about when Ponzi's fighting. If he's fighting a big power puncher, he might get slept. I don't really see that happening with Carlston Harris, but crazier things have happened. But I will tentatively take Ponzinibbio in the co-main event. Next, you have a really fun fight here at middleweight between Cesar Almeida and Abdulrazak Alhassan. Now, Cesar Almeida, glory kickboxer, very clean technique, sharp punches, very quick on the feet. And he takes on Abdulrazak Alhassan, who is essentially a madman. The guy throws big swinging punches. He hits really hard. And he also has a black belt in judo, which he just kind of keeps in his back pocket. If you ever get him in a clinch position, he will toss you. But other than that, he's looking for the knockout. He should have got a knockout in his last fight against Cody Brundage, but he hit the back of the head with the elbows, and Cody Brundage is a Oscar-worthy actor. So he got a no contest there. He got submitted by Joe Pyfer in the fight before that, in a fight which was supposed to be like two crazy barn burners going at each other, but it just turned out to be Joe Pyfer being the much better grappler and much bigger and stronger guy. You're not going to have to worry about that with Almeida. Almeida's not a grappler by any stretch of the imagination. If anything, Abdulrazak Alhassan might be able to have some success with his grappling in this fight. But, I kind of equate Abdulrazak Alhassan to Iwan Cutelaba in a sense, where it's like Cutelaba and Alhassan both have great grappling. They both have credentialed grappling, I should say. Cutelaba in the wrestling department and Alhassan in the judo department. And when those guys use their grappling, they look like world beaters, But they don't want to use their grappling. They want to knock motherfuckers out. That's what they do. That's what Cutelaba does. That's what Alhassan does. And that's what I believe Alhassan's going to try to do this weekend against Cesar Almeida, and I think that would be a horrible idea. If Alhassan decides to take the wrestling route like he did against Buckley and, takes Almeida down, I'm sure he can have success with the takedowns, considering that Roman Kopylov had success with the takedowns, and that's never been his forte. Almeida, even though he is pretty well-rounded for somebody who came up as a kickboxer. He is still somebody that came up as a kickboxer, so his grappling has not been tested to the breadth that Al Hassan can present, and I think it might be a sneaky underdog spot for Al Hassan. I think they have him at plus 250 right now, something about that. I do expect Almeida to get the victory, probably by knockout, considering that Al Hassan again likes to swing and bang when he shouldn't. And if he finds himself in those positions, Almeida's technique is leagues better than Al Hassan's, and I would be very surprised if he doesn't knock him out if they stay on the feet. But if Al Hassan can get this fight to the ground, it might be a shocking night for Cesar Almeida. I just don't really see it happening. I think I'm going to take Almeida. I'm going to take Almeida over 1.5, or just Almeida by knockout. I think would be a better bet, a gooder bet. Al Hassan has been knocked out, right? Okay, he got knocked out once by Chaos Williams. Yeah, Chaos Williams hits really hard, but so does Cesar Almeida. So I'll take Almeida by knockout. Next, you have Chris Curtis versus Roman Kopylov. I love this fight. I really do. This is a fight between two guys who kind of have different approaches to the striking game in the sense of where they start and where they finish. Kopylov is a strong starter. He does tend to turn up in the second round, but kind of turn down in the third. And Chris Curtis, bit of a slow starter, but turns up as the fight goes on, does better in the second and third than he usually does in the first. Makes his reads in the first, if you will. But he's fighting Roman Kopylov here, who hits really fucking hard, and as we saw in his last fight against Almeida, he can, commit to a game plan if it's going to be what gets him the W. Now, Kopylov's had one loss, I believe, in the UFC, if I can remember correctly, against Anthony Hernandez. Yeah. Okay, he had a couple losses before that, but recently he's only lost to Anthony Hernandez, and that was a tough fight, man. Anthony Hernandez is fucking on the rise. He's top 5 material for sure. Kopylov got that victory over Almeida in his last trot, and I really loved his performance in that fight. I really loved how he went for the takedowns whenever he needed to, struck with the guy whenever he needed to. Against Chris Curtis. Chris Curtis is a great fighter. I love Chris Curtis. I love his style. I'm one of the biggest Chris Curtis fans. I made a lot of money on him against Brendan Allen. I made a lot of money on him against Phil Hawes. I just don't... I feel like fighting Chris Curtis is like taking an IQ test. And Kopylov showed that he can take the IQ test properly in his last fight against Almeida by going for the takedowns when, that's not his A game. Against Chris Curtis, I'd be very surprised if he doesn't go to the leg kicks, the movement, and then the wrestling whenever it presents itself. Kopylov could just beat Curtis on the feet. I mean, they could make this a slugfest, and both guys are talented enough that either one can win. But if Kopylov wants to win this fight decisively, all he really has to do is circle to his left and leg kick. And I expect Kopylov to be smart enough to do that. So I'm going to take Kopylov here. I believe over 1.5 is a good bet. If you really want some juice, take knockout in the second or third round on either side. Curtis could get a late knockout in this fight. He turns up as the fight goes on. Kopylov slows down as the fight goes on. Kopylov could get a knockout in the second round. Curtis has a head like a fucking brick, so I don't really see it happening, but it could happen. Crazier things have happened. So I like Kopylov. I like Kopylov over 1.5. Typically, he's a guy to get that knockout in the second or third round, but Curtis is super tough and gets better as the fight goes on, so it might just be a good decision victory for Kopylov, but I'll take Kopylov in this fight. Now we have Christian Rodriguez versus Austin Bashi, and this is one of a couple of spots on this card where I feel like there is tremendous value on the underdog, and I'll explain why. So Austin Bashi, coming off the Contender Series, a story we've heard so many times. This kid is the best thing since sliced bread. You know what I mean? He's well rounded. He hits hard. He's athletic. He's big. Yada yada yada. He hasn't fought somebody with the ferocity. He hasn't fought somebody with the experience of Christian Rodriguez. And Christian Rodriguez is somebody who makes you pay in every phase of the fight. So if this kid is not, maybe he's a great striker. Maybe he's not a good grappler. Maybe he's a great grappler, but he's not great in the clinch. Christian Rodriguez will test you in every position. And if he doesn't come into this fight overconfident, like I felt like he did in the Julian Erosa fight, which I don't think he shouldn't come into this fight overconfident, considering that he's coming off of that loss and he needs a dub here. I think Christian Rodriguez is gonna run circles around this kid, and this might be like one of those Chase Hooper moments. Was it Hooper versus Christian Rodriguez? Hooper fought somebody that beat the shit out of him, and we were like, man, we probably shouldn't have put this guy in here so early. You know what I mean? It might have been Christian Rodriguez though, dead ass. I don't remember. I'm about to find out. Let me do my research real quick. No. Oh, okay. It was Christian Rodriguez versus Raul Rosas. Who did Chase Hooper fight? Steve Garcia. Steve Garcia. Steve Garcia and Christian Rodriguez are two guys who will turn back young prospects. And in my opinion, I think that's what we're going to see happen this weekend. I think Christian Rodriguez is going to put the pace, put the beat in on Austin Bashi. I think he's going to show him things he hasn't seen before. I don't think Rodriguez is some guy who's going to roll over and get finished very easily. So I like C-Rod here. I like him in the underdog spot plus 190. It's juicy. Give it to me all day. I'll take the money line. I don't care how it's going to happen. Could happen by decision. It could happen by a late finish or even an early finish if this kid is not as, tested as they're putting him out to be. So give me C-Rod in the underdog spot for sure. Next, we have another spot where I feel like there's tremendous underdog value here, and that is Punahele Soriano versus Uros Medic. Uros Medic, phenomenal striker. Great body kicked on the left side. Pushes the pace, pressures smartly, which I feel like is a big tool. Punahele Soriano, on the other hand, has shown to be a bit one-dimensional in the past, where he kind of just looks for that big overhand left to knock dudes out. But he came up as a wrestler. And in his last fight against Miguel Baeza, I believe that was his last fight. In his last fight against Miguel Baeza, he showed off that wrestling to tremendous success. Uros Medic is not a great wrestler. It's the one thing that slowed him down in his career is that his defensive grappling is not great. He ends up in the bottom position in a lot of fights where he should be beating as a guy. And I do feel like Punahele is going to make him pay here, man. We saw him get out wrestled by Miktikbek Orolbai, who is a lightweight. We saw him, Orolbai's a lightweight, right? Am I tripping? Yeah, Orolbai's a lightweight. He must have been coming on short notice in that fight. Anyway, we saw him get wrestled by Orolbai. We saw him get wrestled a bit by Jalen Turner. Even Matthew Semmelsberger had some success in the wrestling department. I think that Punahele Soriano, if he fights this fight smart, if he wrestles, I think he will have tremendous success against Uros Medic, and I believe he'll get it done. I think probably by decision. We've seen Puna have some cardio problems in the past, but that was typically whenever he was forced to fight the other guy's fight. If he stays in a wrestling, position, stays in that wrestling mindset, and just keeps taking Medic down, keeps dragging the fight out, popping him on the feet when he can, setting up the takedowns with his punches. I think there's no reason Punahele Soriano shouldn't win this weekend, and I'm going to take him in the underdog spot at plus 160. So, I like Rodriguez and Punahele in the underdog spot. I think those are good bets. Jose Johnson versus Felipe Bunez. I don't know a lot about Felipe Bunez. I like Jose Johnson. He's huge for flyweight. I think it should be a fun fight. Marco Tulio versus Iho Potieria. Potieria here in another underdog spot. This guy, Marco Tulio, looks to be pretty legit, but Potieria, I mean, even though he's like 1-4 in his last 5, I really feel like he's improved a lot. And I like the guy. I really do. This is going to be Tulio's first fight in the UFC. He did get that victory over Yusri Belgawi, decorated glory kickboxer on the Contender Series. And then he got another victory over Mateu Duclos, I'm not familiar with. But the guy has been kind of steady moving up, and he looks to be legit. He could probably knock out Ihor Potieria. But Potieria, again, is another sneaky veteran. Or, not veteran, I wouldn't say, but he's building up that resume like a veteran. He's fought some good guys. He's fought some legends. And I feel like he's getting better fight to fight, even though he's been losing. I still feel like he's improving. So I don't feel confident enough to take Potieria in the underdog spot, but I wouldn't be surprised if he gets this done. This might be one to keep an eye out on. It could just be a very exciting fight where we see Tulio kind of get tested, but pass either way. So I'm looking forward to this fight. I'll probably take Tulio by knockout, but I like Potieria, and I want to see him do well if he can. Now you've got Thiago Moises versus Trey Ogden. This is another fight where I feel like, name value, and like the level of competition, you'd think that Moises should have this in the bag. but I just feel like he's lost it, man. I don't know what it is, but I feel like Moises is a bit burnt out. It's just these last few fights he's had have looked very uninspired. Although he's only 29, he's been like what's the word? He's been fighting for a long time. Although he's 29, he started in 2012. So he made his professional debut when he was like 17. Um, and in his last fight, he got beat the fuck up by Ludovic Klein. And the fight before that, they gave him an absolute cannon, Mitch Ramirez, and he finished him with leg kicks, which was great, but it wasn't like some come out performance. And the fight before that, he got knocked out by Benoit Saint Denis. He's had some really bad losses in the octagon against the likes of Joel Alvarez, against the likes of Benoit Saint Denis, Ludovic Klein. Obviously, he got submitted by Islam Makhachev in a fight where I felt like he put on a great show, or a good show for himself, I should say. Since then, been kind of up and down. I don't know. There's something about him in these last few fights where I feel like he kind of lost it, man. I feel like he lost the thunder, he lost the juice, whatever it was that he had before. I'm not sure he has it anymore. I think he's out here to collect a check. Against Trey Ogden, he very well could win. Trey Ogden is a grinder, clinch wrestler, outside striker, but certainly a grinder, a slow cooker, if you will. And Moises, although he's never had problems with the cardio, like I said, in a fight where in a career where it starts to feel like he's a little bit uninspired, unmotivated, somebody like Ogden who will just kind of rub your face in the dirt, rub your nose in your shit, and just make it an ugly, dirty, grinding, exhausting fight. That's the kind of fight where a guy who might not be in this 100% mentally will break. So I like Trey Ogden in the underdog spot here. I'm not super confident technique versus technique. If they hit the punching bag or whatever, if they were drilling live rounds in the jiu-jitsu gym, I'd take Moises all day. But in a fight where Ogden, has every tool at his disposal, where it looks like Moises is a little bit flat these days, I think Ogden is the kind of guy who can take advantage of that. So I like Ogden in the underdog spot. I'm not sure if I'll take it, but over 1.5 either way feels right here. Preston Parsons versus Jacoby Smith. Jacoby Smith coming in on short notice and is a big favorite, so it's pretty interesting. We'll see if he can get the knockout here against Preston Parsons, who's been kind of ups and downs. Ernesta Caracati versus Nicole Cagliari. I have no idea who these women are. I hope they put on a good fight. Magomed Gadzhousoula versus Bruno Lopez. Bullshit light heavyweight fight. I mean, yeah, well, I don't know. I have nothing to say about that. Fatima Klein versus Dudakova. Should be an easy victory for Fatima Klein. Dudakova's only real tool in her fights has been her wrestling, and she's coming into this fight against Klein, who is a great jiu-jitsu fighter, trains with Aaron Blanchfield, so she should be ready for the wrestling of Dudakova, and she should be able to find a submission in this fight, I would say somewhere in the second round. Joe Solecki versus Nurullo Aliyev. Oh, this is a tough matchup for Joe Solecki, man. Aliyev is he's good on the feet. That's where he gets his bread buttered, but he came up as a grappler, and he has that grappling in his back pocket, and I feel like if you have good enough defensive grappling, there's a great chance you can knock out Joe Solecki. Joe Solecki in his last fight got pounded into the dirt by Grant Dawson in a comeback fight for Grant Dawson, which was unexpected, I'll be honest, but I thought it was going to be a competitive fight where they scrambled with each other. It just turned out to be Grant Dawson on top, raining down blows. So Solecki, never been a great striker, and his last fight got beat up in the grappling department. So might not be coming into this fight very, motivated or, heartened. And Aliyev is coming off of that victory over Rafa Alves, which was pretty sweet. He fought a guy named John Wick. Oh, Josh Wick on the Contender Series. Hasn't really proven himself at this level, not spectacularly, but the guy looks good so far. I think this is a good fight. I'm not really sure who to pick on here, and I feel like Solecki is a bit of a wild card, considering that he can get knocked out with any weren't shot or just snap up an armbar or a submission on a guy. So I think this is a good fight to stay away from and just kind of enjoy as a fan. If anything, maybe bet that it doesn't go the distance, because I think both guys can get the finish at some point. All right. That brings us to our conclusion for this card and our betting slip. Let's go down from the main event. Now, Last year, we did pretty good on the betting slips. I think we got like 61%, 60.5%, something like that overall hit rate. Pretty solid. And I'd like to bump that up further in 2025. Now, I did not track the dog odds, the odds in general on my picks last year. I just tracked the picks. So, might be interesting to track that for this card and moving forward throughout the year. But, fuck it. Let's see what we got. Main event, I'm going to go Amanda Ribas, money line. Co-main event, I'll stay away. I'm going to stay away from those next couple fights, but I'll take Roman Kopylov against Chris Curtis. I'll take Christian Rodriguez, and I'll take Punahele Soriano. So give me Ribas, Kopylov, Rodriguez, Soriano. I am going to keep an eye out on Trey Ogden. I'm going to keep an eye out on Klein by submission. Fuck it, I'll throw in Klein by submission too. So we got 5 picks for you. We got Ribas, we got Kopylov, we got Christian Rodriguez, Punahele Soriano, and Klein by submission. So money line on 4 of those, prop on the other. The prop is on the minus 1,000 favorite. So if you don't bet the prop, really no reason to bet her in general because minus 1,000. This is she could slip on a banana peel or something. It's not worth it. But the prop probably will give you like a minus 200, which I feel like would fit well in our parlay. As always, I always recommend that you guys prop it. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I think this is going to be a decent card to start the year off. There's some fun fights in there and some interesting matchups, particularly Rodriguez and Soriano. I think you put those two together, you got a nice little 2-step parlay. So thank you very much for watching, y'all. I love you. And let's go into 2025 on a high note, huh? Peace out. Thank you.